Okay, this is going to be our second Greek lesson. And the last lesson, I think I called it Greek 01. That's where I had you writing out the Greek alphabet and then singing the Greek song, the alphabet song, which you all did very well. So congratulations on that. Maybe at some stage we can put a choir together and sing our way through the Bible or something. Anyway, so what this lesson is going to be looking at John chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. Now, I've done up a tutorial which you should have looked at already to set up this. If you don't have eSword on your computers or your phones, or you couldn't get it, then you can use the Bible Hub website that I was recommending. But for this tutorial, we'll be working off the eSword that I have. Okay, so we're looking at John 1:1, and we'll get through to John 1:3, hopefully. And I'm not going to explain any of the grammar. I'm just going to have you looking at the words and a little bit about the basic meanings of the words. And really the objective, I think, is to get you to a place where you can be doing your own studies as well. We don't have a proper Greek or Hebrew teacher at the school yet, so that's why I'm having to do this. But eventually, if we get a proper professor, and then they can take over. But I really think, with the the sort of the software and the tutorials that we have, and from the notes, so you're learning Greek as we go through the the doctrinal studies as well. So that'll be a good help. And yes, but anyway, so this is sort of in the meantime until we do get another teacher. But we'll start off with John 1:1. Now I'm going to go to the compare settings here, and this brings us up. We have the two screens. We've got the Bibles up here, just the Greek, that's the New Testament, Westcott, I keep forgetting the name, Westcott Hort, with the Strong's numbers, which we'll see down here. It's Strong's, and we've got the Modern King James Version. Okay, so I'll just read it through. What you're going to have to do for your homework once we've completed this is actually to read it. So I'll expect you to put together just a small video. It doesn't have to be a video, actually, it can be audio, that's okay this time. Last time I had you do the video for the alphabet, but I think some of the file sizes are a bit too big for you. And we only need the audio, and you could read it. Okay, so I'll read it through the way that I understand. The phonetic should be read in the Greek. Different professors will have different pronunciations. There is a modern Greek, and they would have their accent, which is probably different from the way they spoke it in ancient Greek as well. Another thing that is missing from the software, which you'll have in the Bibles, I should have actually done up a file clip, but actually you'll see. I'll just show it very quickly here. If you can have a proper look at that on the screen, and you'll see it's quite different. Like in a Greek Bible, you get all these different diacritical marks above the letters. There's a lot of sort of markings and stuff like that which are missing from here. And I say diacritics, sort of over the tops of letters and things like that. They sort of look like little apostrophes. That's just for like pronunciation, so I don't emphasize that. What is also missing here, though, is that for some of the words, and here's an example here, this word, it looks like O, that's just the Omicron, but in the Greek, there is actually what they call a rough breather. It's like a little comma that would sit over the top of that, and that would become a ho, so the ho, the rough breather is a like H sound. If you do click on it here, you can see it come here. It actually just looks like a thing going straight up. I think I can, there you go, you can see it clearly now that I've zoomed in. Okay, this is called the rough breather. And so if you do see this, you won't see it up here in this edition of the Bible software, but you'll see it when you click on it, and that means you have to make the H sound. Different from this is not the rough breather sound. This is something to do with the way that they do the accent, I guess. And I've never studied that, and I don't think it's to any advantage to know that either, because we're reading the language, we're not really speaking it at all. If it's in a live language where you're learning something, like you're learning English or maybe you're learning Japanese or another foreign language, then it would make sense to be pronouncing a lot of the stuff and correctly. But I will do it to get you, so you've got the basic pronunciations, but again, nobody really knows how they used to speak in the accent they used to have. Okay, but I'll just read through it quickly. John 1:1. NRK, ein ho logos, kai ho logos, ein pros ton theon, kai theos, ein ho logos. Even in the Greek, it probably looks fairly simple as it is in the English, because we're just focusing on a few words and they repeat themselves. Now, in the beginning was the Word. So the word en here is in. It's a very easy one to remember, en and in. Arche, we have the word archaic in English, so I can click on the word here. See, it looks like archie, but remember that the key sound here, it's actually, it's a solid CH, that brings out a sound, so arche, that would be a K, I guess, in modern day English, or the K sound, so it's actually pronounced arche, and they give you the phonetics here, or the pronunciation. A commencement, a beginning, a chief. You can look at the meanings there, but a K, they translate it beginning, that's a good translation. Ein means was. Ho, now ho is an article, and we just saw the example, it's not actually O, it's a ho, so you won't see the rough breather there. You'll get to, you'll see later, a T means, I think it's participle or article here. And you'll get to see, you'll know that later when you're reading to the O, if it's in front of a noun, it's got to be ho, that's like the. So far we have in the beginning, was, aiming was, ho logos was the word. The word kai, you see this a lot. Usually it translates as and or also often. That's the main translations. Again, you can look down in your Strongs here. And what do they, and also, even, so, then. Some of the meanings get a bit obscure, but as you look through, when you get to a scholarly level, I think sometimes the translators, they have to look and looking at the context, looking at the theology behind it, and they say, okay, well, this is really how kai should be translated, for example. We have a repeat of the word hologos, the word. Ein, pros. You have the word like pro in English, I think that it sort of means ahead or to be before. Okay, but in this case, pros means to be with. Pros, ton, theon. Now, here's a word you're going to see a lot. The root word, or the main stem is theos. So it's different here. You see, they have theon here because in this case, it's in the accusative case. Accusative being, in English we have subjects and objects. In the Greek they have nominative and accusative, for example. So this is accusative case, which you see here. See, en, noun, accusative, singular, masculine. Okay, I'm not going to explain all of these letters right now because we'd be here all night. If you're in a hurry to know what all of these the light blue letters mean, you can go to Bible. So what you have to do first, actually, just click on the Greek version. See, we're in compare mode at the moment. If you just clicked on the Greek, which you would have to do first, then go to Bible and then information here. And if you click on information, that will tell you what all of the different letters mean, the different symbols. They call them declension codes, I guess. This can be a bit of a headache as well, but for example, ADV, adverb, conjunction, PRT, particle, prep. See, we see like this word out here, prep, preposition, and that gives the means of the words. And then you have like noun, and so for the prefixes, see noun, adjective, relative pronoun, reciprocal pronoun, and so eventually you have to learn all this, and it's quite extensive, the list. You get into different cases. That means what part of speech it is. Nominative, I just mentioned that. That's the subject of a sentence. Vocative, if someone's calling out something. So they call it "Hey you," for example, could be in the vocative voice. Genitive usually expresses relationship, if something's belonging to something. Dative, that describes the relationship, the way things work together in terms of time. You have the locative, sometimes call this locative, of what do you call it? Locative of sphere, that's the place. Locative of, it does go into time, and there's, I think, cause or something like that. It's late in the evening, my brain's not quite going there. And then A is accusative, which is the subject object. That's the object of a sentence, which is what we have with our word theon here. So you have A as accusative. So again, the first letter will tell you what kind of a word it is. It's a noun. And when it is a noun, all you have is accusative, singular, and masculine. Or in the Greek you have masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns. For the verbs get a lot more complex. I won't go into it right here because again we'll be here all night. But that just gives you sort of a bit of an idea of what these light blue letters are going to stand for. Okay, so where were we? So we're on the word theon. If you click on theon here, it comes up as theos. It's always going to be presented in the lexicons as the masculine, singular, nominative. So as a subject, the masculine subject noun in the singular. Okay, so that gives you the definition there. Okay, so where did we get to? We had ton theon, so that was God. It's interesting with the word God in English, we don't put an article with God. Usually if you say like the gods or something like that, we're talking about fake gods or demon gods or something. But in the Greek, we will always have the article with God. So we sort of understand as the God. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the God, but we don't say the God, we capitalize the G in God instead. You'll notice here that these, because you should all remember the letters that I had you writing out, what we call the uncials, the capitals, and then the small letters. The Greek original manuscripts and the early manuscripts, the original, what do they call it, the autographs, I guess, and the manuscripts, were all written in uncials. So it would be all capitalized letters, and they would all run them together. In the software, it's all small letters. Okay, so that's something else you need to be aware of. It doesn't change the meaning. Names, you'll see names capitalized, and sometimes at the start of sentences perhaps, but not here, not in the software anyway. So we have the word ton theon, the God, and we have the word kai again, theos. Here he's in it says the nominative now. He's the subject of the sentence, so it does change. He's a noun, nominative, singular, masculine, and God was the Word, or the Word was God, as they usually translate that. So I'll just go back to compare. See, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We're talking about Jesus Christ, second person of the Trinity here. So I'll read through that one more time. Again, I'll get you to read it. And I was going to go through from John 1 to 3. It might just be a little bit much for you at this point because I explained a lot of things. So I'll read it one more time. If you can't remember the pronunciation, just you click on the word and it'll show up, and then you can figure it out from there. So your homework is I'd like you to do a recording of John chapter 1 verse 1. Something like this. En arche ein ho logos, kai ho logos, ein pros ton theon, kai theos ein ho logos. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. And that's your Greek homework. Oh, and the other thing is that I want you to write it out as well. So that audio is just one part. I did show you an example. Let me see if I can, I'll just bring up the example I had. I think it's here. Okay, yep. So I'll show you this that I've got. And what I did, I just wrote here, I actually did 3 verses. I'll tell you what, for the, yeah, let's do all 3 verses, okay? We're supposed to be disciplined, so I read the first verse, and because verse 2 and verse 3 is a little bit more complex. Verse 2 is very simple. So again, from the beginning, as the audio, en arche ein ho logos kai ho logos ein pros ton theon kai theos ein ho logos. Hutos ein en arche pros ton theon. Panta de auto egeneto kai chorus auto egenete ode hen. This is hen, actually not en, because you've got the rough breathe. That means 1. Hen ho gegonen. In the beginning was with God. He in the beginning was with God. And all things became, and through him, so auto is him, and through him all things came into existence. Chorus means without, so I think the way they translate this is with, and without him nothing came into existence. Okay, the Greek grammar bounces around, so so you have to read that out, but read it out from your Bibles. And then I want you to write it out, verses 1 to 3, and just copy it out in your best handwriting. So that's your homework for the Greek. Okay, the first part, which is actually in the tutorial, so you need to do the eSword, I guess. That could take a little while, but once you're familiar with that, that's a valuable tool for the rest of your life, I guess. And then to recite verses 1 to 3, and then to write them out. So that's your Greek assignment over the next couple of weeks. And I think that concludes everything now. And I'll stop the lesson. So we'll see you next time.